Case in point, the Jeff Jarrett, Toby Keith story. That's the next big story I want to talk about here. We got some more details about this week. This comes from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. Meltzer was one of those guys from the beginning who said, no matter what Janice Carter may say in these memos that she circulates, all the denials, and maybe they don't have a sign on their front door saying, hey, come on in for an open house, we're up for sale. Basically, he said from the get-go that TNA was for sale. They were entertaining offers. And the deal that had been proposed would have had Jeff Jarrett and Toby Keith buying TNA. And the reason that it didn't happen was, reportedly, one request that Bob Carter had. Bob Carter is Dixie's dad. He's the one bankrolling this whole operation. If Bob Carter wakes up one day from his beauty sleep down in Tennessee or wherever they are, Texas, wherever, and says, you know what, I'm tired of losing money. I'm done. I'm pulling the plug on this whole thing. If he does that, TNA is dead. TNA ceases to exist. They're finished. So he's kind of TNA sugar daddy here, if you want to look at it that way. And I know his wife, Janice, handles the finances. Dixie had that power taken away from her a long time ago. Supposedly, as the story goes, Bob Carter had one demand, that being that his daughter be kept on as a character on television and have, some degree of power. I don't know what position she would have held if it would have been more ceremonial than anything else. It sounds like basically he wanted his daughter to save face. He didn't want to just throw her under the bus and just confirm what everybody already knows, which is that she's an idiot. She's not a good business person. She doesn't know what she's doing. She's not a wrestling personality. She's in over her head. All of these things. Again, delusional Dixie. And Toby Keith looked at that and said, I'm not looking for any sort of creative limitations here or, demands to be made on your end. Like, you're either selling or you're not. And if you're not, then we're walking away. And that's where we are now with Jeff and Toby Keith, I guess, looking to bankroll this new wrestling promotion that is still a ways off from launching. Jarrett posted a teaser on his, it was either Twitter or Instagram, I think, earlier in the week. It was like a 15-second video, something like, coming soon or we're coming or it's coming or something like that. So clearly there's a new promotion that they're involved with, that they're starting from scratch. And it's going to take a while to get it off the ground, and they've got to scour for talent, and they've got to look for TV, because in today's day and age, without TV, you're not going to go anywhere. That's just a fact of life, and that's where it gets really interesting when it comes to Spike TV, because TNA's deal with Spike is up in October. So you would think that right now they're either negotiating or they're getting ready to negotiate a new deal. I would think that Spike is happy enough with TNA. TNA, even though they can't seem to get past a certain point, the ratings that TNA does is still better than almost everything else, except maybe Cops. I guess the Cops reruns do really well, but TNA's got to be way up there in terms of what those shows do on that network. So I feel like in the end, Spike and TNA will reach a deal for at least 1 year. They're gonna keep things going, but you never know. And if they don't reach a deal soon enough, and Jarrett and Toby Keith kind of swoop in there and say, listen, this is what we have. This is what we're proposing, and let's talk. Let's talk turkey. And wouldn't it be something if TNA gets booted off Spike TV, and this fall there's a brand new promotion debuting on Spike? Maybe they even want to give Spike a part ownership in it, just to sweeten the pot. Just saying, anything can happen. And that's what makes these negotiations so interesting. It's like the negotiations with WWE and NBC Universal. Valentine's Day is coming up pretty quick this Friday. That's the last date that NBC has to reach some sort of deal with WWE or to reach the demand, whatever WWE is asking for. If they don't do that, WWE is free to go out and negotiate with other networks. Maybe Spike. How does Spike in WWE factor into this whole thing? All of these TV negotiations are going to help shape wrestling for the rest of this year and beyond. It's not just another business deal. This is make or break stuff for a company like TNA, because without TV, they can't survive. And they have no value. At least while they have television, TNA has some value. So it's going to be very interesting to follow this story going forward. And they got some bad ratings news TNA did this week. Impact actually did pretty good, but bad ratings news in that the NFL, I think the NFL and CBS are going to be airing 8 Thursday night football games this fall. So there's going to be a lot more football on television than in the past. And that's not good news for TNA. And I joked with somebody on Twitter. I said, I guess we're going to get Wednesday Night Impact. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for them to bounce Impact into a different time slot or a different day because, football does take a chunk out of wrestling. Monday Night Football takes a chunk out of Raw. Not a catastrophic amount, but it does hurt them. TNA's numbers are not where WWE's numbers are, so for them to take a big hit by the NFL, I don't know that they can really afford to sustain that. So that'll be something also to follow if they get moved around and shuffled around into a different time slot this fall. Assuming, of course, that they stay on Spike in the first place.